Hello and welcome to TidyX, episode 14. TidyX is a screencast where we go through and try to explain how our code works. My name is Ellis Hughes. I am a statistical programmer. You can find me on Twitter at Ellis_Hughes.
And I'm Patrick Ward, and I do data analysis in sport. And you can find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick. And you can reach the both of us always with questions or comments or thoughts at tidy.explained@gmail.com.
Okay, so the data set this week is titled African American Achievements.
Yeah, this data set, Thomas Mock, who runs Tidy Tuesday, did a great job of pulling this together from Wikipedia sources. And he put it together, I think he said it best. It's a celebration of Black lives, their achievements, and many of their battles against racism within their lives. And so the goal was to try and emphasize these achievements and just focus on the celebration of what some of these achievements were.
Mm-hmm. They're emphasizing, Black Lives Matter. I mean, he put it right there. So, so I think it was a good data set, very timely with everything. So there were good submissions this week, a lot of good submissions, but we picked this one. Patrick, do you want to maybe go through that for a sec?
Yeah, this one comes from Catriona Cunningham. She did two plots that we're going to go over. I think they're really cool ways. This first one we're looking at is a really fun way that you can visualize basically points, but dots, but in a histogram format. And I think it gives a great kind of picture of the achievements over time, the increasing trend of those achievements, so you can still see those. And the plot before this one, which we'll go over first, is a really cool dot plot in a what's called a strip plot format. So this is a really fun way to look at your data because it not only shows the trends over time, where you can see a greater concentration of points, around 1900 and then 1950 and 2000s, but it also retains individuality. And she did this by using Ggplotly, or Plotly rather, which will show and we have shown before. But it's a cool way to kind of visualize the data, show individualization, allow people to drill down into the data and highlight things. So yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so Catriona has her code on GitHub up here. So we took this code and we brought it into our R session, which we've got here. All right, so at the beginning of her script, you can see that she loads in all the libraries that she uses. So she loads in Tidyverse. Right after that, she loads in Dplyr, which is actually part of Tidyverse. So you don't necessarily have to expressly do that. Then after that, she's loading in Rvest, which is a library for scraping websites. Next is Janitor, and Janitor is a fantastic package for cleaning, and it contains a lot of functions. They're helper functions, really. So they're for cleaning up column names or removing NA values or things like that. So it's a really helpful package. I highly suggest you use that. Next, she has the Plotly library there, and that's for the interactive graphic that we're going to get into in a bit. Then she's got this extra font package, and I believe that's for loading in extra fonts for your plots and whatnot. She's got these two functions there. I believe that's for downloading the fonts from the extra font package, and then she gets into loading in her data. So she uses readr and the read CSV in the slug that Thomas usually provides. She just chose to download the first.csv, which is the list of African American firsts from Wikipedia that he's cleaned out. Right after that, she goes and creates her color scheme. So there's a few different ways you can go do that. She chose to set a vector of the different colors she'd like to be using, but there's also color palettes that exist, like in packages such as Color Brewer or Palettier. But she chose to do it this way. All right, so let's hop into it. So she immediately takes the first data set and throws it into a Ggplot. She sets her aesthetics to be the x-axis is the year, the y-axis is the category, so you can see how you can create that strip plot there with those two there. She sets the group to be gender, which is a field in the first data set. Color to also be gender, and person is the person. So I don't think this is necessarily a normal field you'd see in the aesthetics, but that's how it works. Next, she uses genome points, so now she's adding the visualization to it. So she's adding the points to her Ggplot using those aesthetics, and sets the size of those points to be 2. And she actually has a nice little comment there explaining she's doing this or sets the size to increase the point size. She sets theme BW, which is theme black white, I believe, and it removes the gray background, which is the standard Ggplot background. Right after that, she does some theming, where she actually, very helpfully has some pretty nice comments here explaining. She removes the legend title with element blank. She centers the plot title with element text HJust, which is horizontal justification, 0.5. She's setting the text to be using the family Franklin Gothic book, and the size to be 16. So that's the font size. Sets the panel grid major, so the major lines to not exist, and the minor lines also not exist. So she's removing the grid lines there, so that way you get just the box for the plot is, and then you can see the points.
I think you could do theme classic and get the same thing. She does theme BW. I think if you do theme classic, I think it'll remove all of the grid lines as well.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I haven't used that one. Next, she uses the scale color manual. So this is telling Ggplot to what color she's wanting to be using. So the values are my colors, which is what she's defined up here, and the labels are male and female. So even though the values male and female didn't exist in the gender field, I think the values were African American and female African American, but she's setting them to be male and female with this. So she's telling it this is what those values should be, quote, read as. Setting the X label to be year. She's removing the Y label. She's setting her X scale continuous to be between 1700 and 2019 with values, so like ticks every 50 years, and sets her GG title to be African American accomplishments. So now that we've ran through, I didn't load anything in. That would, don't mind me. All right, so we've got everything. Now we're gonna actually run it. All right, and so there we have that first strip plot that she created there, where she's got the individual's points there. She's colored it by male and female based on the gender field that exists in firsts. But as you can see here, it's not interactive yet, so we can't like go through and see the individual's points there. Like who is that one there, or what event is that? So the way that she goes about doing that is she uses Ggplotly. So that's from the Plotly package, and it is very nice in that it allows you to write your own Ggplot, and then it'll have some machinations in the back end there to convert it into an interactive plot. It's got this handy dandy tooltip argument, which you can set to be, all right, so these are the aesthetics that I want you to be using for creating the tooltip. So she's using X in person, which is why that existed up here. All right, so now let's run Fig, and now she has this interactive plot where you can hover over and see individuals.
Yep. You could also click on either of the legend titles, and it'll auto kind of select. So you could do that. You can hover into specific years. So, or sorry, not hover into, exactly.
Zoom into.
Zoom into specific years. So makes it a really easy kind of interactive plot for exploring your data and looking into things. So it's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah, but you may have noticed here on the right-hand side, it says African American firsts and female African American firsts. That is because Plotly did not respect her scale color manual. So she has some comments there going, oh, it didn't respect it. Basically what she does is she goes through and does some mutates. So she does a mutate if.
In the data set first.
On the data set first, and then if it's a character, replace all female African American firsts with female. So what she could have done is, rather than doing these two mutations here, she could have done firsts, and then first mutate. We can call this. She kept it as it was, which is I believe gender equals case when.
There you go.
Gender. I think we've talked about this a number of times, but this comes up all the time when you're programming, like you're trying to recode things.
Yep, and then there you go.
I can type, I promise. In the same situation here, and then this would all have been done in one step here, because the danger of doing it this way would be she's replacing in any of the columns of first that our character this pattern with male and female, which could have some unintended side effects. In this situation here, you're only going to be impacting the field gender with your conversions. So this would
always the dangerous thing using any of the mutate ifs or summarize ifs. You put in what the character or the value is you want, like if integer, and you just have to know that across all those columns, whatever function you supplied, if it's a numeric column, it's getting that function. So always the dangerous thing.
Yeah. But basically what she was trying to get at was convert the gender field to be male and female. So that way when she generates her plots and then throws it into Plotly again, it will have what she intended, which was the female and male. Otherwise, it is the exact same sort of plot that we were looking at before. So like we said, it's a great way to be able to, see a distribution, to see how things are changing, for the better, but still retain that individuals. So you could hover over it and see who it was, what year it was. You could potentially add some more information about like what exactly that event was or what that first was. Great way to visualize this.
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to talk about the other sort of plot that she generated, which was the, dot plot.
Yeah. So the dot plot, which is our kind of histogram-ish looking plot, she does right here. So again, she's using that first data set. She sets her x-axis to be year. So just like if you were to do a histogram or a density plot, you're not setting your y-axis explicitly here in your first aesthetic. You're just telling it on the x-axis I want year, and then the group by and the fill information, that's just kind of telling the plot what you want to group by. So here she's grouping by category. So that's going to be things like sports or science, things like that. So basically what topic it is. Then she passes this cool geom dot plot function, which is one that I've used a lot. She gives it an AESY equals ... count ... which makes sure that on the y-axis it's a count of each of those categories, and you'll see what that looks like in a second. There's some information following that that's specific to kind of how she wants it to look with regard to the stack direction going up, the stack ratio, the stack groups. So she wants the groups to be stacked on top of each other rather than separated apart. She has a little hashtag comment there at the off in the right margin called stacking dots. This is actually really good code if you want to learn stuff, because she does a kind of a nice job of commenting out the steps along the way. She then gives you bin positions. All bin width is 5. And so what we're going to see what that looks like. That's basically going to give us, since on the x-axis is the year, the bin width is going to give us basically a tick mark, or we'll call it a line of dots every 5 years. And so we'll show you what that looks like when you change it. Dot size is a 1, so that's basically the size of the dot. She again uses her theme BW to remove the background, the grayscaled background that's default in Ggplot. Legend information, she just gets rid of the title of that legend. She sets her plot title information. She wants to center the title. Text, element text family is the same as the previous, so that's kind of telling you how she wants her the writing to look. The panel grid major and minor are all removed or blanked out, as is the x-axis text for the y and x-axis. And then the scale fill manual, this is where the my colors that she had specified all the way up at the top where she loaded her package, this is where they're going to come in. I think she had loaded or specified something like 8 different colors, and that's specific to the number of different categories that are going to be grouped within this plot. So just always know that when you do that, you have to have the right number of values or colors specified. If she was one short, you're just going to get an error thrown back at you.
Yeah.
She sets an X label for year, which is what we're plotting on the X-axis. Obviously, a Y label she leaves blank because it's just going to be counts. And then she gives us a scale X continuous. So similar, she's basically creating a sequence. The first argument is from equals 1700 to 2019 by 50. So by every 50 years, basically, it's going to plot a number. So 1700, 1750, 1800, 1850, ... all the way up to 2019. And then she gives us the GG title, African American Accomplishments. So we can go ahead and run that. And we get this cool dot plot, which looks a lot like any type of histogram or density plot you would typically put together. But now we actually see the dots, which I really like. You can see all the kind of counts in there on the legend. You see the different 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 categories that that were specified within the data set. One of the things we talked about there is she did set the bin width to every 5 years. So if we actually go back, we can change this bin width to whatever we want. Certainly we can change it for every single year if we wanted to, but sometimes when we think in years, it's easier to think in decades, like decades of life or decades of events. So we'll set the bin width to 10, and we'll show you how that actually changes the plot, what the plot looks like over time, or how the data looks.
Let's give it a second.
And it's formatting.
All right.
It's like stuck.
Oh, interesting.
What happened there? All right.
Let's run it again.
Try it again. Huh.
All right. Interesting.
What an interesting format. That's not how it had originally looked before.
We trialed this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know what happened there. Huh. Maybe when we trialed it, it was wrong. But
That's not great. But anyway, yeah, the point or the idea behind the bin width is that way we can look across each decade how it was changing. I don't know, when I'm thinking about years, I find it easier to think about decade as opposed to every 5 years. That level of granularity, I don't know, it's just hard for me to immediately think of But decade, you can like 1920s, 1950s. You can like think in discrete decades. So
Yeah, for sure.
but apparently, oh wait,
Yeah,
no. As I move it
it
over,
seems like it's like chopping it off because we're missing the sports one. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
yeah. So
Yes,
as
there we
I
go.
move it over, so apparently there must be something. There we go. So as
Okay,
you can
now we've
see,
got it.
it's just for some
Okay.
reason we have to move it over. That's
So now that looks much better, doesn't it?
yeah. Here, let's. Ah, it doesn't have all the styling that she did. So sorry about that, but you can see the decades, which I think is valuable to see.
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, and then she saves all her plots with GG save, which is a good way to do it. It might be good to save it, assign it to an object, and then you can save it like that. That way you're a little bit more explicit with which file you're going to be saving to this file name.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like these. Yeah, dot plots are super nice. So, and strip plots as well. So really cool. Really cool work this week.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Catriona, for letting us go through and explain the figures that you generated to go over this really important topic.
Yep. And because it's such an important topic, normally we would follow up the someone's plot or explaining someone's plots and code with our own kind of sports-based code. But we thought it was an important topic, so we're actually going to end the episode here and provide people with the extra whatever 10 or 12 minutes they'd normally watch us talking about sports to go and maybe explore some of this data, explore the Wikipedia pages, and read some of the stories and read about some of the accomplishments.
Yeah, just go use this time to go educate yourself. It's really easy, or it shouldn't be easy to hide yourself from this. So go and learn about this, educate yourself on it. All right, and with that, thank you for joining us. My name's Ellis Hughes. You can find me on Twitter at Ellis_Hughes.
And I'm Patrick Ward, and you can find me on Twitter at OSPPatrick. And if you got any questions, comments, feel free to hit us up, tidy.explained@gmail.com.